APG is proud to release its latest performance product, Mobile Performance WB for the iPhone. This application may be purchased at the App Store and downloaded to the iPhone. Requirements are that the operator have a current weight and balance account with APG, and for the purpose of requesting calculations, have an internet connection either through the 3G or Wi-Fi capability of the phone. Note that once the resultant calculations and information is brought to the phone, that information may be saved on the device and viewed at a later time without the need of having an internet connection. Mobile Performance WB was designed with the pilot in mind. Use of the program is quite simple. Entry of data, very easy, and the weight and balance and performance reports complete and in accordance with Part 135 and EUOPS regulations. Let's take a look at some of the functions that Mobile Performance WB has. A new leg segment, creating a city pair and getting it set up. He may then open the existing segment, making the changes and modifications necessary, and then when complete, save it as a release document, making a consolidation of the weight and balance, runway analysis information, and other items such as weather and NOTAMs on the phone. And then at a future time, being able to view those documents. Let's start by a new leg segment. The first action that the operator must take is to select the airplane that's being used for the flight that we're planning. Here we select a Citation 10. The necessary information is now brought to the phone for calculating the weight and balance and the performance. Weight and balance may be completed in one of two methods: entering passengers and cargo via the graphic or using a spreadsheet. Starting with the floor plan, we can demonstrate by putting a passenger in seat number 3, where we now see the 194 pounds in seat 3, and putting a second passenger by using the spreadsheet. Putting a passenger in seat number 4, returning to the spreadsheet. Note, we'll refresh the screen and it will take into account all the changes we've made. And if at any point any of the weights or the CG values that are calculated are out of limits, that appropriate field will turn red. We'll return to the weight and balance in a moment, but next let's move to the third tab and look at performance. Performance is separated into departure and arrival calculations. Starting with departure, simply enter the ICAO identifier and select a runway and then compute. But before we do that, let's take a look at some of the information that's been brought to the screen. We can see that the wind, the temperature, and the altimeter have been pre-filled, and that is from the current METAR, which is also available. This is where the information was taken from. In addition, the pilot has the ability to look at the current forecast and any PIREPs that may be available for that airport. Pilot then has the ability to make any changes to the wind, temp, and altimeter as he sees fit. In addition to having the METAR and weather information available on the phone, NOTAMs for the airport are also presented. The pilot can preview these. Other selections that are available are choosing alternate flap settings or selecting non-standard options. Options are considered to be those things that affect takeoff performance, such as inoperative components like anti-skid or auto spoilers. In addition, wet runway or contaminants, as well as bleed conditions. Any of the performance decrements that are taken into account in the AFM have been digitized. So the options page will have those available for the pilot to select, and if he does select them, those factors will be taken into account for the takeoff performance calculation. At this point, let us select a runway. Here we select runway 33 DP, where runway 33 DP information is showing the declared distances along with the slope being used for the calculation, as well as the actual procedure. Here we mimic the Lynn's departure procedure out of Aspen. The textual description follows. Returning to the screen, we can simply select Compute, and the resultant limit data is displayed from the weight to the V-speeds, power, and level off height. Next, let's repeat that process for our destination. We simply enter the ICAO identifier, retrieve the information, and select the appropriate runway. Computing, again, we have the limit weight and the reason code. Now we can return back to the weight and balance and see that the limit information that we just calculated for takeoff and landing have been brought over to the weight and balance spreadsheet. At this point, we simply need enter the fuel load, from which we have a default taxi burn, which will be deducted. This is a company default, which may be altered by the pilot flying this particular flight. And we have from our computer flight plan the fuel burn for the en route portion. Refreshing the screen now tells us that we're in the green on our CG values. None of the weight values are in red, so we have a satisfactory load. And note that we also include in the check that the takeoff weight is not exceeding the takeoff performance limit, and our planned landing weight does not exceed the landing limit. Graphically, we can look at the summary of the flight, where we see our takeoff weight, the fuel burn vector, and our landing weight position. At this point, the pilot may want to save the document. Simply return to the main menu, select Save, and enter a name for the flight segments. Once this is done, the calculations have been saved on the device and are available for reviewing at any time. Here we have a document that was prepared today and a previous document that had been saved yesterday. If we wanted to modify any of the flight information, we would simply select it, make the appropriate change, and then return to saving this document, assigning it a subsequent name. If we find that the flight is ready to be flown and needs no further modifications, we can create a release document by going to the latest version, which would be on top, and confirming that the performance is green and weight and balance is green. And that means that all of the calculations have been completed and all of the calculations are within limits. We simply need to select the segment that we wish to create a release package for, assign names, and this is an optional feature that's allowed. When we're complete with the entries, we select Done, and what is happening at this time is that rather than have information for just one runway and one temperature, the performance data is now being calculated for multiple temperatures and all of the runways and prepared in a neat PDF. So the report prepared has a weight and balance document and a runway analysis document. The weight and balance document consolidates the information from the weight and balance, and the release shows the multiple runways for departure, the textual description of the procedure, and landing data for all of the runways, and again, multiple temperatures at our destination. This information may be emailed by simply placing the desired email address and sending it. So if your company has a secure mailbox for weight and balance load manifest, this would be an appropriate package to be sent to that drop. Again, all of this information is now stored on the device, and at any time the pilot may be able to retrieve any of the last saved information, including NOTAMs, weather, runway analysis, weight and balance, etc. Again, the use of the program is quite simple. The entry of data, as you have seen, is quite easy, and the reports are quite complete and compliant with 135 as well as European OPS load manifest requirements. If you have any questions, please contact support@apg.com. Thank you very much.